The lower respiratory tract is made up of three big structures: the trachea, the bronchi, the lungs. So here's a more scientifically accurate drawing. So again, the trachea is the windpipe. The bronchus, bronchi, those are the branches. The bronchioles would be the limbs on the branches. And then the leaves or berries at the end of the small branches are the alveoli. So trachea, the windpipe, and it connects the larynx to the right and left bronchi. The point where it divides is the mediastinum, so that's an important word, mediastinum. And when you look at the trachea, it reminds me of electrical conduit, which is rigid. And so the trachea is muscles and connective tissue embedded with these C-shaped rings of cartilage. So we need that structural rigidity so that the trachea does not collapse from the pressure of internal tissues. So the trachea is kind of rigid. Bronchus, bronchi, the bronchial tree leads into the lungs. So air from the bronchi travels to the bronchioles, then to the alveoli, which connect to the lung capillaries. The alveoli have very, very thin walls and are surrounded by capillaries, and so the alveoli is where the gas exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. Now, I am not going to ask you on the test what the other name for alveoli is, but it's pulmonary parenchyma. Pulmonary parenchyma. Isn't that a nasty word? I like alveoli. The lungs are two cone-shaped spongy organs made up of the alveoli, the vessels, tissue, and nerve, and it's divided into lobes. Now, the left lung has got 2, the right lung has got 3. Perhaps the location of the heart has something to do with that, and I'm not particularly sure. Now, I am sure that the uppermost part of a lung is called the apex. The lower part is the base. So apex, the tip, the base, bottom, or a phrase that will help you better, because base is not always the bottom. It is the broadest part of an organ. So apex, base. Hilum is where the blood vessels, the nerves, and the bronchial tubes enter and exit. So that's the hilum. Now the lungs are surrounded by pleura. So pleura, pleurae, this little thin, moist, double-layered membrane that allows the lungs and ribs to move smoothly against each other during respiration. So it kind of prevents friction. Now, the parietal and visceral pleura. Parietal is the outer layer. Visceral is the inner. And again, one way to help remember it, remember that visceral means internal organs. So visceral is going to be more internal. It's going to be deeper than the parietal. The pleural cavity is the space between those two membranes. Now, this cavity is filled with some lubricating fluid that prevents the friction as the membranes slide up and down. Again, a repeat of a term, mediastinum. Mediastinum is the space between the lungs, contains the heart, the aorta, trachea, esophagus, and bronchi. So, looking in the chest cavity, we can see the lungs protected by the rib cage, protected by the breastbones. Now, muscles that are needed for breathing can be divided into two groups, the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles, not intercostal, intercostal. Because again, the diaphragm is a muscular membrane. So those things allow us to breathe. So, external respiration, internal respiration. Guarantee you this is going to be on the test. External respiration is breathing in and out. So it's inhaling and exhaling. So the key is it's from the external environment, is external respiration. Internal respiration is the oxygen moving to the cells and then the carbon dioxide being taken away. So external respiration, think about the air moving in and out from the body to the outside world. Internal respiration, think of what's going on inside the body, inside the cells themselves. So, inspiration, expiration. So, internal respiration, the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the tissues and the blood in the systemic capillaries inside the body. Carbon dioxide leaves the cells and enters the blood, and then oxygen from the blood passes into the cells. So when this gas exchange is completed, the blood flows from the capillaries to the veins and returns to the heart. External respiration, two separate but simultaneous activities. The gas exchange between the alveoli and blood, and the ventilation, that is the moving the air in and out. So breathe in, breathe out to the outside world. So we have a diagram here that shows arterioles, the pulmonary capillaries. So arterioles meet up on the bridge, that is the pulmonary capillaries. And so that's where the gas exchange happens. And now, so again, oxygen-rich blood is shown by the bright red. Oxygen-poor blood is designated as blue. But please, blood is not blue. You might have heard of people being blue blood, but if you, I don't care if you cut a vein or an artery, they are not going to bleed blue. If they bleed green, they are a Vulcan. But so blue blood is merely an expression. Blue blood in these illustrations is just for illustration. So blood is not blue.